I'm a bit paranoid about losing data. My SSD failed a few months ago, and I lost some data because of that. In this video, I'll explain why I couldn't back up my data in time, and how running everything in virtual machines solved the problem. Let's do this. After getting a few beeps from the motherboard indicating that my SSD has failed, I started backing up my data as soon as possible. I came across a very interesting problem though. I use a NAS to store all of what I consider as irreplaceable data. And as I was copying my Windows 10 home folder to my NAS, Windows kept copying a bunch of files because their path was too long. I found a bunch of articles online on how to solve this problem, but nothing worked. Unfortunately, while I was trying to figure out this problem, my SSD failed, and I couldn't access my files anymore. So why did this happen? Any logical storage has layers of limitations. I'm gonna focus mainly on logical storage for now, because I'm planning to do a video on whatever is under it, so stay tuned. The first layer holds the partition table and boot-related information, which is kind of the basic building blocks for any storage medium. In this one, the limitation can be the number of partitions that you can define for storage, and the maximum size of each partition. For each partition, there is the second layer, which is the file system. In this one, the limitation depends on the file system itself. For example, the FAT file system has a maximum file size of 4 GB only. For the default file system for Windows 10, NTFS, it has a limit for file names, which is 255 characters. For the file path, however, the limit has always been enforced by the interkernel for compatibility reasons. And Microsoft introduced an option to remove said file limit in Windows 10 1607. And even with that, Windows Explorer doesn't yet support it. You can use third-party alternatives to Windows Explorer to access and copy those files, but what if you want to back up everything? Well, you can create a disk image. Now, what does that mean? A disk image is an exact copy of your drive, byte to byte. The nice thing about it is that you'll have one file that has everything that was on your system. However, it could be a very big file. In the worst case, as big as your system drive. So if you have a 500 GB system drive, then your backup will be, at the worst case, 500 GB. Of course, there is a much more straightforward way to deal with backups in general. There is a backup feature in Windows 10. You just need to add the storage medium for your Windows 10 backups. Unfortunately, it doesn't support backups to network storage, which is my main problem with it. Windows 10 had that. And technically, the feature is still available in Windows 10, but it's deprecated, which means at some point in time it will be removed. Which means if you backed up any data using this feature, you won't be able to access the backups. Since I'm lazy, I thought I would make my system drive a file from the very start. And the best way to do that is by running your operating system as a guest operating system. So I did just that. I've installed Manjero, which is a nice looking Linux distribution based on Arch Linux. For virtualization, I used libvirt and QEMU. Yes, virtualization. Yes, I'm running Windows 10, which is my main operating system on a virtual machine. Technically, it's not the most straightforward setup, but it's really easy to use once you set up everything. Okay, the data problem is easier to deal with now, at least for me. Playing games, photo editing, and video editing, however, is screwed. Virtual machines are known for their poor graphics performance, and that's because most virtual machine managers support outdated graphics APIs from 2005 only. To solve this problem, here comes why I chose Linux as the main OS for my PC or as my hypervisor. It's PCI Passthrough. Now, what does that mean? The GPU and a bunch of devices on your PC, but I'll focus mainly on the GPU, are connected to your CPU using PCI Express, which is a high-speed expansion bus standard supported by all major PC platforms. The PCI Express Passthrough feature lets you assign a PCI Express device to a virtual machine with little to no overhead. This feature is supported on Linux kernel 3.9 onwards, and of course your processor has to support virtualization and I/O virtualization, and your motherboard needs to have an I/O MMU. Okay, so now I have a PC that's running Linux as the main OS, and I have Windows 10 running on a virtual machine with one of my GPUs assigned to it, and I also managed to run macOS with the other GPU assigned to it as well. So Windows 10 and macOS running side by side, and they're running extremely fast. And whenever I want to back up my Windows 10 machine, I can just copy the virtual drive somewhere. In addition to that, I've created a virtual drive for Windows 10 backup. This will give me file version history support on Windows 10, which is pretty neat. However, what if my current SSD failed as well, before I had any chance to back up anything? Well, we can discuss the solution to that in the next video. Thank you very much for watching. If you like this video, please hit the like button. If you want to see more videos like this, please subscribe. Also, let me know what you think about this video in the comments below. Until the next video, peace.